Miller's Termite and Pest Control is the only place you need to look for pest control. Don't get roped into contracts or high prices with the big companies. Reach out to someone who cares about you. They can handle any problem from termites, bed bugs, ants, spiders, etc. They also do lawn care. Where else can you keep the bugs out of your house and your yard looking sharp? Reach out to them today on Facebook at Miller's Termite and Pest Control. Email at pest_n_peace@yahoo.com or by phone at 812-767-5657. We've all heard horror stories about insurance companies and insurance agents. Let me tell you about my family's agent, Tommy Taylor. Tommy is an agent at Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance and is a multi-line agent that can keep all your insurance in one place. Why is a dedicated agent so important? When you have the unexpected occur, you'd much rather know the person on the other end of the phone. Contact info for Tommy, 812-372-4483 at extension 2447, or look him up on Facebook at Tommy Taylor, Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance. Don't be another horror story. Stop knocking on wood and relying on a 1-800 number. Trust Tommy Taylor today. Looking for a new tattoo? Looking for a professional piercer to add to your body art? There's no reason to drive to Indy or Louisville. Just visit Beauty from Ashes Tattoo Parlor in Crothersville, Indiana. Beauty from Ashes is located just past the Dollar General on Highway 31. Stop in and check out the amazing work done by all 4 artists at the shop. Each artist has a unique and personal style, but all do amazing work. The shop is family friendly, so don't hesitate to bring your kids or loved ones with you when you stop by to get some ink. Check out all the artists' work on their Facebook page and book an appointment today with either Kyle, Martha, Billy, or Lily. You won't be disappointed. Beauty from Ashes Tattoo Parlor, Crothersville, Indiana. All right, and welcome back to Married with Children, the podcast. We are here live on location at Seymour Brewing Company with Shawn Malone.
Hello.
Owner of Seymour Brewing Company. Before we get started, big shout out to our sponsors, as always, Miller's Pest Control and Lawn Care, Tommy Taylor, Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, and Beauty from Ashes Tattoo Parlor, Kyle McIntosh.
Woohoo!
I know you know my boy Kyle.
You know him well, right?
Yeah.
He's been all
he
over
should hold
me.
up his thing right here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we represent Kyle as often as we can.
There you go.
He's been all over me about when this episode's going to come out. So
Nice.
he was inking me the other day, and he said, "Man, I keep looking. Where's the Shawn Malone episode?"
Yeah. He's been, he hits me up. You're gonna do that, right? You're gonna do that. I think it'd be good. I'm like, I'll do it, man. I'm dying to get on there.
So he's a great dude and great community guy. And Shawn, I appreciate you letting us come up here, and it's pretty cool we got to come up here and set up at Seymour Brewing Company. You got some cool stuff going on, but how'd you get into this?
Crazy story. I had a Pepperidge Farm cookie and goldfish route for about 2 years that a friend of mine had hooked me up with, and I built it up a little bit, and it really wasn't my cup of tea because you had to be in most of these stores by 7 a.m., right? So I'm delivering cookies at like 3:30 in the morning, and
Which nobody's happy delivering.
no,
cookies.
it doesn't matter what kind of cookies you're delivering at 3:30. There's nothing happy about it. But I enjoyed it. It was cool. It gave me an opportunity to get into some different markets I hadn't been in, and learn how to grow something really. And I would talk to stores that hadn't had our product in it for years, and slowly start with a couple of feet of shelf space, and then over time build that into an end cap, and all that really was helping my weekly paycheck, but it was also building the account up. So after about 1.5 years of doing that, I waited tables the entire time. I was working at Streamcliff Farms in Comiskey, Indiana.
Okay.
Huge shout out to them. They groomed me for several years. They let me wait tables and water flowers and do a lot of really cool things on their farm. And the whole time I was learning small business, and I was learning the restaurant business. I worked for a lot of great small business owners. So I had sold the Pepperidge Farm route and had a little bit of money in my pocket, a little bit. And I was staring at my 30th birthday, and really just didn't want to wait tables forever. It was a cool gig, and I really liked it, and I made great money. But I wanted to do something on my own. And so on my 30th birthday, I chilled out at my house by myself and really contemplated some of life's great decisions and what I was going to do to hopefully advance myself in life. And I didn't know what that was going to be. I had a few $1,000s saved up, and that was it. And I had went to go have a beer with a friend of mine that I'd met in Nashville, Tennessee through Fred Gill. And life's all about connections and building bridges, you know. And when I was in Nashville, Tennessee with Fred Gill, we met a lady that worked for, I'll get this wrong, but I think Mercury at the time. And she was managing Jody Messina, Tim McGraw.
Wow.
And so, of course, I was really involved in that conversation. I love music, of course. And she said, "Oh, where are you from?" And at the time, I was living in Comiskey, working on their farm, living in a farmhouse, waiting tables, doing the Pepperidge Farm thing. And it was actually had just sold that, and was kind of on a little trip, you know, just getting away for a minute. And I told her Comiskey, and she said, "Oh, I'm from North Vernon," and we just couldn't believe it. You know, here was this lady in Nashville that I'd never met before, and I knew her husband, her first husband from Seymour, and his little brother and I were old school friends, and never had met the lady. So you just never know what kind of conversations you're going to find yourself in and who you're talking to. But we exchanged pleasantries and said, if you're ever in, you know, back in town, give me a shout. Maybe we'd go have a beer. And her name was April Ryder, April Barber. If she hears this, I hope she does. Thanks for that meeting that night, April, because we met some other friends of hers and classmates, and Billy Bright, who was a U.S. state representative from North Vernon, had just won the seat, and he had come to join us that night at the Cellar there in North Vernon, and he had said at some point in time during the conversation, if anybody was interested in buying any pizza equipment, he had just won this U.S. state rep seat, and he was really going to give it 110% and was going to sell this pizza equipment. Crazy enough, the Comiskey Corner store, I had become friends with the folks who owned that at the time, and I'd helped out up there a couple times in the evening just working the register and making pizzas.
Yeah.
I had never made pizzas before, like on any level other than at home, and I enjoyed making pizzas, Chef Boyardee pizzas, which I still love. Still love to make them, and so I had very minimal pizza experience, but I had pretty good idea how to run a kitchen from just being in the kitchen out at Stringcliff so much. And so I said, you know, I'm interested in that. I'm interested in taking a look at what you got and seeing if that's something I can afford. And at the time, I had a friend of mine who he had a little bit of money, and he was wanting to do something with it as well. And I knew of a liquor license that was available here in Seymour that the Gill boys had owned, Fred and Toby Gill. And I called them and talked to them about it, and they said, yeah, we'll sell it to you on contract, right? So I'd kind of secured this 3-way liquor license, and then went and looked at this pizza equipment, and I guess we're telling long stories here, so we'll just tell it the way it was.
No, you're good.
Yeah, you're good.
I went and looked at the pizza equipment, and basically Billy Bright had given me a really unique opportunity in saying that, look, I've won this state rep seat. I'm willing to walk away from this pizza equipment if you're willing to take over my 3-year lease that I just signed here in Seymour at this shopping center next to the JC in the West End. And so I went and looked at the equipment, and I'm still cooking on those ovens today, 13 years later. But I negotiated a deal with the leasing agent over there for that piece of property, and said, okay, if I'm to fulfill this lease for 3 years, at the end of that 3 years, I'll give you such and such dollars for this equipment. And it wouldn't be much. It wasn't much, you know. But I was going to fulfill a 3-year lease, which was expensive. You know, it really was. And so we started April 1st, 2006. We opened the doors to Brooklyn Pizza, and had a business partner. He had a full-time job. He was all over the road, up and down the interstate. And after about a year in business, things were just so-so. It was about 2007, and things were okay. And he had some other opportunities, and he was ready to move on. And so we made an agreement for him to sell his portion of Brooklyn Pizza. And that liquor license that we hadn't really done anything with, so to speak. It wasn't really doing much. We were trying to sell packaged beer to go because that license allowed it, but we weren't really doing much with it. And so part of the agreement was, okay, you can take the license and sell it, and it was worth some money, and I'll give you a little bit of boot, and I'm still going to try this. Let's see if this works. And it was still a baby, and so that worked. In the first year, I became an independent owner, and then 2009 came along, and the recession kind of kicked in, and I was feeling it in the pizza business, and there was a lot of pizza places here in town, and there still are some great ones. But I was new and trying to make a name, and I didn't have a big bankroll. I just had the money that was coming in weekly. We'd sell product, we'd buy product, we'd try to spend a little money on advertising. And 2009 came around, and the lease was going to be up, which I was so thankful that I had made that. Like, I couldn't even believe that I had actually fulfilled a 3-year lease, because it was a good amount of money. And then there was some common area maintenance and stuff. And so I called the owner of the building and just told him what I was thinking about. Like, hey, the recession's kind of really hit, things have really slowed down, and we could use a break here on this rent because it was pretty high, pretty steep, and so he called me back, and he said, well, I've taken a look at it, and I was able to help him fill most of that shopping center with other great renters.
That's cool.
And doctors, and so doctors were kind of recession-proof. They weren't really, they weren't feeling
Everybody's
it.
still going there.
Yeah, they weren't feeling it, but I was feeling it. And so I knew that though I couldn't afford the space, that he did have other people in there who could afford the space. And so I started looking for a new place. Hey, Holly, thanks.
Oh, a beer.
Thank you. Yes. And so he came at me with a bigger number, bigger than the 3-year lease that I had monthly. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to give you my 6-month notice, and I'm going to start looking around.
So when you asked for a break, it actually came back with even more than...
Came back at even more. He came back at me at $500 more a month than where I was already at. And so it was a real shock. At that point in time, brother, like, I didn't really know. I mean, we were just hanging on, you know what I mean? So at that point in time, I could have just shut down and went and got a job, and but I really hated to. I was 3 years invested, and I felt like it was a good thing, I felt like what we were doing was working, and people enjoyed our products. So I started looking for a new spot, and I drove by this building that we're in now here on West 2nd Street, and there was a for rent sign in the front window. And West 2nd Street's not Tipton, you know what I mean? So it's you're losing a ton of traffic. And being next to the JC, I had a ton of traffic in front of me all day long. But it was still on us to make that business, to still bring those people out of the JC parking lot over to our store. And we'd done a good job of that. And so what I hoped is that if I moved off Tipton and brought my rent down, that I would still pull some of my customers with me, but it's not guaranteed. So I came over here, looked at this spot, and sat in the parking lot 2 or 3 times and watched cars, counted cars driving by, and thought, this works. Second, I'm born and raised here, and Second Street is a thoroughfare.
It's not like you said, it's not Tipton.
Yeah.
But it's still a busy road.
Yeah, and if you live in Seymour and you do business in Seymour, you're using Second Street. You know what I mean? Tipton is a lot of through traffic, Brownstown, Bloomington, Bedford, as well as the opposite way. But we got a real strong group of neighborhood people here, as well as just through traffic. So I thought, this is worth a shot. So I came in and talked to the gentleman that owned the building, Tom Williams. He's a great dude. I just talked to him a couple days ago. Him and his wife, Snowy, had owned this building for 30 plus years, and she had a salon in the side of the building right here that we're sitting in. This was a salon for 30 years. The side over there where the pizza shop and the ovens and the kitchen and all that was a tanning salon for years. But even before that, it was a tanning salon. It was a laundromat. And then
If these walls could talk,
Yeah,
between a salon and a
yeah.
bar.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of stories in
Tanny
these walls.
salon, and it's just.
Too funny.
And then even in the 50s, maybe 60s, I'd have to check the date exactly, but this was Model Rug Company. This was a rug cleaning business, and so if you look at
Wow.
our structure of our building, the middle of this building right here that we're sitting in has 20-foot roofs, and there was a big boiling pot in the middle of this room,
wow.
and there's tons of still old hemp rope and pulley systems in this building, and they would lower those rugs into the vats and clean them, is my understanding. That's just a little bit of history about the building. But I came in and talked to Tom, who was sweeping the floors in the building next door here, and asked him about it. And he said, I said, hey, what's the rent on this building? And he threw me a number, and it was seriously like a third of the rent that I was paying.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, this is doable. And so I'm standing there and I'm thinking, okay. And I said, I'm really interested. And he said, okay, but it's rented. And I said, man, you got to be kidding me. Like, I wanted to stay on the west end of town. I built my business on the west end of Seymour, and I was staying away from all the action on the east side of town. I really felt like there was a need here, and we were catering to behind the high school, the boulevard areas, Sunset.
So this is more your neighborhood area.
It
and
is.
so
You get the interstate traffic on the east side. This is more your neighborhood.
yeah, and I thought that was good enough for us, and it was going to feed us, and that's what when you're young and you don't have, I wasn't young in age, just young in heart and spirit and time serving pizzas, but when you're young, you just don't know. I mean, it was so up and down. Would I make it? Would I survive? And but I thought lowering my overhead's got to help. It's got to help.
Yeah.
So I gave him my number. I said, if anything changes, just let me know. And he showed up at my pizza shop about 2 months later. I still had about 3 months to figure something out, and I was scrambling to figure something out. And I saw him standing in line one night, and I was ringing people up, and he got up and he ordered a pizza, and he said, those people didn't rent that spot. They decided they were going to do something different. I said, I want it right now, So for 3 months then, I was paying rent there.
And here?
Rent here,
Oh,
yes,
no.
yeah. Okay, and
So
then
you're
it
like,
was,
can I just survive?
yeah. Now can I survive
Yeah.
3 months while I'm trying to get everything moved over here? And then this wasn't a kitchen. There was never a kitchen in here, so I had a huge expense, and pretty much everything I was able to save up those first couple of 3 years, which wasn't a lot, I put into this building with the first option to buy, right? But he had informed me like, hey, we're not gonna sell for a couple 3 years.
Right.
My wife's still doing hair, and
So this side was still a salon at that point?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that was the
yeah.
pizza. Okay.
And in the back was just two empty garages that he kept cars in and washed his cars and stuff in. And so I came on board and restructured that whole side of the building and put my pizza shop in. And within about 6 months of doing that, sinking all the pennies I had into that, his wife had taken a fall, a pretty bad fall. And he came over and he said, hey, we're going to sell. We're ready to sell. And I just sunk every penny I had into your building. You know what I mean? Like, I can't go to the bank right now and come up with any kind of loan.
Yeah.
It was my thought. Like I said, I'm still young. I'm showing 3 years worth of business on the books, but it's not breaking any records or anything, And so I didn't know how I was going to get it done. And so I called, I'll just name drop all day if that's all right.
That's okay with me.
These people, anybody I talk to you about has absolutely influenced me or pushed me or driven me to be where I'm at today. And at the time, Andy Royalty, who I worked for many years, ran his offices and managed his rental property and stuff. And he taught me a ton, and I knew he knew how to make deals happen when you just really didn't think you could make deals happen. And so I called Andy and I said, here's my situation, here's what I'm looking at, help me, what can I do? Not asking for money, just give me some knowledge, what do I do here, And he said, okay, you really need them to carry a second mortgage for you, and that second mortgage is going to help you out and get the bank where it needs to be to get you this property. And I didn't know anything about that, and I was nervous about asking them, you know what I mean? Like, I need to put this deal together. And if I go to them and say, I'm not able to put this deal together, they might look at me and say, okay, we gave you first option. we're going to go
And
looking
now we'll
for
go
a
somewhere
buyer,
else.
right?
Yeah.
And your rent may triple.
Could have
Yeah.
tripled. And then I'd have been right where I was
Yeah.
and not on Tipton.
And all
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
money that you
And
put
on
into this
Second
kitchen.
Street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and on Second Street. And so I went to the Williamses and I said, hey, would you be interested in carrying a second mortgage for me for 1 year? Okay. And they said, yeah. Somebody did that for us. That's how
Okay.
we were able to buy the building 30 plus years ago.
Wow.
So I said, okay, that's cool. And so we struck up that deal. Well, now, lo and behold, I've got a mortgage payment for a building, and now I've got a balloon payment, or a secondary mortgage payment to these folks. It was twice as much as my rent was at the other building, those two payments together.
Oh my.
So now here I am, 3 years, 8 months into being Brooklyn Pizza, and I thought I was going to cut myself to a few $100s. Now I'm staring at a couple $1,000s, you know? And I'm going, this is, what am I doing?
What did I get
That's a lot of
myself
pizza.
into?
That's a lot of pizza.
Yeah.
And we're new on 2nd Street. There's not been a restaurant down this way. Nobody's breaking their necks to look over and see us here. There's a lot of things that were really scaring me to death.
Yeah, when you were talking about a third of the rent,
Yeah.
you could take some of that money and put it back into advertising and draw people down
Yeah.
here. When you talk about a few thousand,
Yeah.
there is no advertising
Yeah.
budget anymore.
Yeah, we 4 times it, and now we don't have no money. You
Yeah.
know? And so I was freaking out, man. I really was freaking out. And I had all this extra square footage. Now, they were retired, you see. And so here I sat with a salon. And I even bought everything in the salon and thought, I'll just rent it out as a salon.
Yeah.
That's no problem, right? I can do that. Well, I don't know anything about salons. So that quickly turned into, okay, that's not going to work. And I've got some square footage I need to do something with. And so the first person that came in on this side was a bakery, a small bakery. Wish I could think of their name. I can't. They were here for about a year. They did really well, but they had other things going on. And so they left, and then Lindsay B's Donuts.
Okay.
Lindsay B started here.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, the ladies at Lindsay and her mom had just left Allmeyer Bakery, I believe, back then. It had closed down in Columbus. I think later reopened in life, but those ladies were looking to do something, so they brought Lindsay B's in here. And Lindsay B's was here, and it was successful.
Yeah.
And it helped me cover some of my
Yeah.
rent, and I was thankful for that. And they quickly outgrew the space.
Of course, they moved.
Yeah, they quickly outgrew the space.
Yeah.
They were killing it, and so they moved, and then I was like, man, what am I going to do? Except for now I had a kitchen over here as well, and so when they went to put a kitchen in here, I had a couple of things, an extra 3-bay sink, things that help make a kitchen, and so I just went ahead and put them in this side of the building in case they ever left. It would be that stuff's here, and so. So when they left, I still had a fully functional kitchen in this building, and I was able to talk to a few people, and then the Flying Pig barbecue came into place, and Flying Pig was here for almost 6 years, and that happened about a year and a half, year and 8 months ago. They left, and we built Seymour Brewing Company over here. That's a short way to get to that, but the long way, I guess. But so Seymour Brewing Company started a year and 8 months ago or so, and that part about it has been a blessing. Everything about what we've done in the last couple of years has been amazing. We've grown in size, doubled in employees. Things are going really good. Customers love us. We're getting rave reviews, and it's a lot. It's stressful too. You go from 4 or 5 employees for 8-9 years to a dozen employees over the last year and a half, and that's a huge growth, and it's a huge learning experience for a guy who didn't really ever know what he was doing in the first place. So,
that's awesome.
it's I'm constantly learning. My wife grew up in a restaurant. Her parents had one for 17 years, and then she was a GM for Applebee's for years, but then before that she was with Grindstone Charlie's, and so she has a wealth of knowledge about how systems operate that are beyond what I'd ever dealt with. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Even when I was in the busiest kitchen I'd ever worked in, it was still a small mom and pop shop, and they did a great job, but we just, it wasn't anything like a commercial setting.
Well, even Streamcliff. I mean,
Yeah.
Streamcliff, I'm a Jennings County guy,
Yeah.
and that's a small setting. Great food,
Yeah.
unbelievable
Yeah.
atmosphere,
Yeah.
but you're not turning it out like a commercial kitchen, obviously.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and it's everything out there slows down, man. You're at Indiana's oldest urban perennial farm,
Yeah.
And you go there with that knowledge.
you go there with
I'm not in a hurry.
Yeah, you go there with patience, and you go there with different, man. People want pizza; they want it now, you
Yeah.
know, and sometimes they don't have 20 minutes to wait, and we're spoiled. We're a spoiled people. I mean, we can get a hot dog off a roller grill if we're starving right
Yeah.
now, or you can get a pizza through a drive-through in 2 minutes if you want one, and that's good stuff too. I'm a huge fan of pizza. I love all pizza. I love it all, and but that's not us. We don't produce anything in 20 minutes. We're just not that quick. I forget where I was going with that, man. I apologize.
No, I think it's awesome hearing the story from like where you started, like before you started,
Yeah.
to like all of that, because I mean, I think that's great just hearing like, and even like the history of this building and everything, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, so we had 2 garages back here at the back of this building, and then I reached out to what was Twisted Crew Brewing,
Right.
TCB, those boys, and they came in. They were all they all have full-time jobs, and so they were all brewing part-time, and that was fine and all for the most part, but it didn't lead to a whole lot of retail hours, and so therefore they just weren't. I don't know. I don't want to say successful, because whose version of successful?
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
They just had enough, and they were ready to get back to their 9-to-5s that were paying bills, and so at that time I reached out to them and said, I'm interested in buying the equipment. I don't want the name or the product or anything. I just interested in some of the equipment. It's already in my building,
Yeah.
and that way it won't leave. And then I had an old friend named Rich Mettert, and Richie is our brewmaster. And Rich and I have been buddies since middle school, and sometime in our teenage years, I had introduced Rich to his wife now.
Oh, cool.
Dr. Jennifer Hartwell, and she's a pediatrician in Columbus. And over the years, Rich would always say, I owe you. I mean, when we were 19, he said it. When we were 25, he said it. When we were 30, he said it. I owe you,
Did you
Malone.
say I take you up on that now?
So here we are at 42 years old in my life, 41, and I call Rich and I say, hey, man. Remember? And I just called him and said, hey, I'm going to make this purchase, and I really want you to come just walk me through it, talk me through it, and see if I'm making a good decision here. And so Rich came down, looked at all the equipment with me, and said, yeah, man, you got something here you can do something with. Who's going to brew for you? And I said, I was hoping you'd kick me in, man. I was
That's
hoping
where you come in.
because Rich was brewing full time. Rich had a full time brewer's position up in Columbus, and he had been brewing somewhere for about 6 years. And I knew it's what he loved to do.
Yeah.
I knew it's what he loved to do. And here I was going to start something, but we were still really, really small in the scheme of things. And I thought, I just don't know if I can pull Rich. I don't know if I can afford Rich.
Right.
And so I told him, man, if you kick me a name, I'll trust you. And he's in a home brewers club. And I thought maybe he was going to throw a name my way. And he looked at me and he said, I want to brew for you, man. And I said, well, I don't know, Rich. I don't know if I can. You can afford me. He said, let's do this. I want to do this. He's a Seymour boy. He'd been away for many years while him and his wife, grew up, and she got her degrees and worked at different hospitals and stuff. And so they're back around, but he's a Seymour boy, and he wasn't brewing here in Seymour. He was brewing in Columbus. And so he said, I want to come to work for you. And basically all I really want from you is free range. I've got all these great recipes. I've got all these great beers that I want to brew, and he didn't really have the opportunity to do that where it was brewing.
He wants to be open to do.
They basically had 4 or 5 beers where he was at, and those were the beers that they brewed.
Right.
And so Richie had this portfolio of all these wonderful beers that you're drinking, and that was kind of his thing with me. He just said, you give me some, and it was easy to do. Rich and I worked together at Karma Records. He was a boss in Seymour. I was a pee on up in Columbus, but Richie got me my job up there, and so we used to go to concerts together. We've got pictures of us and him, us and Rob Zombie hanging out, and different concerts. We used to go to a lot of metal shows when we were younger. And
how sad is it that Karma Records is gone, man?
Yeah, super sad, man. We had a lot of great friendships built there, and then a lot.
Those were in every medium-sized town across Indiana.
I stood in line for probably 14 hours for Metallica tickets. 91 or so, probably. And
well, I would say that,
that
the kids today don't realize. Like, I remember the midnight openings for CD releases.
Yeah.
Like we would
well,
go
they
at
can
midnight to get a CD.
Pre-buy, buy it before.
It's in their, it's in their email
downloads
tomorrow.
automatically.
Yeah.
Words.
Yeah, I'm a touchy-feely guy with music. Still have to this day a huge collection of everything from 8 tracks to cassettes to vinyl, and I love the way music sounds and feels and smells. I love getting vinyl records out and putting them on the player, and so music has always been a huge part of my life, and still is to this day. I went to Bible college when I graduated high school here in Seymour. I went to Johnson City, Tennessee. I went to Johnson Bible College down there, and I was just there just a year, and we had stuff going on here at home, and I came home, and I wasn't feeling it. But one thing I always remember was Rich was the first person, maybe besides my grandmother and my mother, that wrote me a letter at school, and of course nobody handwrites anything anymore, but we're talking 93, 94, and so Rich was that person. He was just good friend, and so blessed to have him as a brother and a friend. And so when he said he was going to come on board, man, I almost felt like we were going to make it. Like, this brewery thing will work because he puts out such a great product. And so he came on board. We took a few months to get our permits in place, and all that started happening, and we've brewed over 200 batches of beer within 2 years already.
Wow.
And things are only looking more positive. We're getting ready to start a new build project right out here at Harmony Park. Harmony Park is our music venue attached to the brewing company and the pizza shop here. It's an all-ages venue. It's family-friendly. It's non-smoking. Even though it's outdoors, we just ask folks to step outside of the fenced-in area. And it's a place where everybody can come, man. If you look out there now, there's a couple dogs out there playing around.
I know, I've seen them running through
there's some squirrels and rabbits and everything out there. But really, I wanted a venue. I love booking music. I love that whole song and dance with artists where you go back and forth, and you're not trying to hurt anybody. The artists want you to do well as a venue. They need to do well for their travel and time and expenses, and more than anything, I love that whole song and dance. And so I had booked music in other places, all over Seymour, friends that owned bars. I'd booked music at Brewski's, and I'd booked it at the Rocks, and I'd booked it at the Funky Monkey, just as a promoter, just what I like. And so the whole time had Brooklyn Pizza, and just didn't have any square footage. And so at one point in time, I spoke with the neighbors here next door and told them my vision of Harmony Park, a family-friendly music venue where everybody could come. It wouldn't be a late thing. It wouldn't be drunken debauchery.
Not till 4 or 5 a.m.
Yeah. We try to get out of here at 9:30 on a Friday.
Yeah.
And what I quickly found out as we built Harmony Park and it started becoming this beautiful, peaceful place, was that the artists wanted to play here,
Yeah.
A lot of these artists don't have an opportunity to play in front of their kids. They're playing the local
they're
bar
playing
scene.
They're always playing in bars.
Playing the bar scene,
That's
and so
true.
I grew up with a lot of these boys that have been playing music and girls that's been playing music for 25, 30 years that I've known them, and some of them said, my 14, 15-year-old kids never got to see me really play.
Never
other than at
outside
the
of like
house.
the garage.
Yeah, I never,
or
I
whatever.
never do a full production show, And so all of a sudden the phone just started ringing, and people were saying, hey, we want to play Harmony Park. We want to play Harmony Park. And we give music away. We do probably 8 to 10 weeks of free Friday night concerts where it don't cost a penny. You bring your whole family, and it doesn't cost you a dime. You don't have to eat. You don't have to drink. Of course, we hope you do.
Right.
But my whole point was just to give music away. And that has since turned into some paid shows, 3 or 4 paid shows a year. But even in that, particular circumstance, it's usually work to deal with the artist where you get 100% of the door, you know what I mean, where we're trying to really build up their, you know, what they're doing. And that's worked out really well. You know, people want to pay for music. I mean, you know, I do. I want to pay for live music. I want to go see live music. I want to see people pour their heart and soul out for me. You know?
Well, and it's cool because I think even, you know, you talk about the guys you grew up with that have been doing it 20, 30 years, but we had Forrest Turner on our show, and a guy that was so excited to come here. He ended up getting snowed out, I know, but he, you know, even when he was on the show, he was talking about getting to come here and play at Brooklyn Pizza Company and Seymour Brewing Company, and so even the next generation of musicians are excited about being here.
That's cool. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, because what we hope to build is a place for artists across the board. You know, Kyle McIntosh came in. This place was bare bones, and Kyle came in and painted the mural that you see on the front wall there at Brooklyn Pizza Side. That was 72 cans of spray paint, 28 hours.
Is that right?
Yeah, and Kyle,
I mean, it looks amazing.
Yeah, Kyle.
Like, Dustin, like when we came in, Dustin was like, "Kyle did that," and I'm like, "Oh my!" Like, I mean,
and he was still a baby. You know, that was 10 and a half years ago.
That was early on before he was.
Oh wow! Before he was even in Crothersville. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, that was a long time.
Yeah, that was 10 years ago. Kyle and I became friends through. Oh man, I wish I really even knew. We have mutual friends. Rick Wilson, our brother. Brother Rick. I don't know if you guys know Rick, but Rick was a pastor here in town. He lives in Florida now. He started the Alley Church. Rick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so Kyle and I both had a passion for what Rick was doing. Kyle and I will both be the first to tell you we're not saints. You know what I mean? We both have, I don't want to say checker past, but we've lived life, you know, and so we were able to relate with Rick's message and hear him tell about, you know, how he had, you know, battled with different demons and addictions and things, and Kyle and I related on some different levels, and I guess I won't say I was more motivated because Kyle's motivated. He's a hustler, but I was just in a little better position in life, right? And so I saw a lot in Kyle and really wanted to push him to be the best artist he could be, you know, because I saw so much beauty in what he was doing, and saw that what he did was making other people happy, right? Even if Kyle wasn't happy with himself at the time, he could put out a piece of work and it was beautiful, right? And so we had a 5-year anniversary party, and we had Redneck Rattlesnake, I think at the time, which is a lot of local guys that are playing in different groups now. They came out and played our anniversary show, and we had Kyle do a live graffiti piece, right? And so on a 4x8 sheet of plywood in front of a bunch of people out here, Kyle painted a picture that day, and what it turned out to be was called Blessed. The picture was called Blessed, and Kyle didn't know what he was going to do with it. It was huge, and he donated it to me, and he said, "Do with it what you will." And so I donated that piece of art to a friend of mine, sister, and she is an art teacher in Michigan, Vassar, Michigan, an hour away from Frankenmuth. It's up there, but I had gone hunting every year in Michigan with my buddy Corey Gearman, and Corey, my buddy Lam Wynn, who is here with us tonight. He's running around somewhere, and my buddy Dave Eggers. Those guys were all my best men in my wedding. And Corey is from Nashville. He's a music publisher, and Corey grew up in a pizza restaurant, but then he went to Belmont University, made it pretty good in Nashville, and he now manages for Kid Rock. He's Kid Rock's day-to-day manager.
Really?
Yeah, and so there's been some great adventures there with Corey. So we go hunting in Michigan.
Which, by the way, I just bought Dustin at Walmart his Kid Rock's Greatest Hits on vinyl.
Nice, that's
at
sweet.
Walmart
I need that. I need that.
I just bought that one.
That's actually how I opened my Sunday this morning. As I listened to every one.
Nice.
Back to back.
Totally side note, but I
get lost. I get rambling. So we met Corey's mom and dad and sister and brother-in-law in Michigan, and she had told me about this I'll get it wrong here, but it's basically it's a soup donation type thing. Bowls. It's bowls something. I apologize. Help me.
I think we do the same thing where they turn the pottery bowls.
Yes, and then they serve soup in it, and the kids make money. Yeah.
We do it at Jennings County High School too. We're
Really?
the principal.
Yeah, and so it was the first time I had ever heard about it, which would have been probably about 8 or 9 years ago now, and they were doing it, and so I said, I have this huge piece of art, I'd love to send to you as a donation, and so her dad and mom stopped back through from visiting Corey in Nashville, and tied this 4x8 sheet of plywood down to their truck, and took it to Michigan, and. Kyle will tell you, there's a lot of things that happened after that went to a Christian school in Michigan where she teaches at, and it turned out that the principal thought it was such a neat piece that he bought it. He was the highest bidder, and he put it in the school, and here this piece was called Blessed, right? And now it had left Seymour, and it had went to Michigan, and they prayed about it, and the school did up there, and they prayed about it and was, thankful that it came to them, and that it was such a beautiful piece, and they understood Kyle's story, and Kyle received some light from that. I mean, he really did, and I think you've talked to Kyle. I mean, I think he's probably somewhere around that 10-year note in sobriety, and. That was a big deal for him at the time. It's a big deal now to this day still, and I love Kyle for it. And we feel like that piece of art brought some of that peacefulness and some of that light into Kyle's life. And so I think I said all that to say that what we do here is supportive of artists. It's of all artists and people who from all walks of life are in here. And. We have 3 or 4 people that play music that work here. We have 2 or 3 artists that draw and paint. And so it's a really tight-knit, close family of free-minded, free-thinking people. And from that, you get a lot of growth because we're not ever thinking inside the box around here. We're always thinking outside of the box. And in turn, we are just magnetically drawn to all these beautiful, happy souls, and our customers alike are those people, and so you reap what you sow, and so I feel like we're reaping years of just staying the course, even when it didn't feel like it was going to be successful always. I just felt like this is what we want to do, and we want to be pure and true to our form, and do the best job that we can do, and that's paying off tenfold now. So
let me transition you a little bit back to music.
Please do, yeah.
Who's your go-to? I know you said you went to a lot of metal shows, but I know you as well.
Yeah.
Being around in here a little bit.
Yeah.
You've got a very eclectic music taste.
If you're like Dustin, when he sets his playlist in the car, it's like
anything may come up.
Like literally.
Yeah.
Like anything you can think of.
Anything could come up. I mean, it really could. I mean, my wife and I danced to Chris Stapleton and his wife Morgan. We just loved them, and we danced to a song at our wedding. I'd been stuck on Chris for a few months before that, and I'm still stuck on Chris.
Yeah.
He's a freak, man.
He is. I mean, he is awesome.
He barely moves his mouth. He barely moves his expressions. Can hardly change if he doesn't want them to. And the biggest sound in the world comes out of that guy's mouth. And so.
And I remember I told her one time it was the CMAs or one of the Country Music Awards.
Whenever he.
But there were 4 finalists for Song of the Year.
Yeah.
He had one with Tennessee Whiskey, but 2 of the other 3 he
had written.
Yeah.
And it's like, so 3 of the 4 are really his.
He let 2 of them go. Yeah.
He's going to be a winner either way.
Yeah.
And I still listen to Chris. My wife bought me, which I owned the Traveler on CD, and she bought me the Traveler for Christmas on vinyl.
Okay.
And it's constantly on my record player.
Oh, that's a good one.
I don't think
we have that one, do we?
Yeah,
I
don't think I can get burnt out on that record. And now I'm listening to the latest record of his, but what I really like doing is just looking up his live stuff on YouTube, and just him and a solo acoustic guitar, and his wife Morgan singing harmony vocals is just beautiful. It really is. But man, I mean, if you ask me, tickets in our hanging on our fridge right now, you'll see Backstreet Boys. You'll see.
Oh, yeah?
Really?
You'll see Mellencamp. Grateful Dead or Dead and Company that is touring this summer. Elton John. We just went and saw Vince Gill. Wife and I did a couple weeks ago, which was magical.
That's
I saw
awesome.
you got the Dave poster hanging out there
Yeah,
at the pizza
yeah.
side.
I saw Dave
We're
and
going
Willie.
to see Dave here. I've never seen
Yeah,
Dave.
yeah, you got to see
He's
him.
seen him like a trillion times.
Yeah.
25 or 26 times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
nice.
I've never seen him,
Nice.
but we're going this summer.
Saw Dave and Willie at Louisville Slugger Field
Okay.
years ago, and it was sick.
I bet that's
It was
awesome.
a killer show. My go-tos are, though, usually, it sounds, I'm a cheesy pop fan. I'm a sucker for 80s ballads, you know what I mean? I grew up listening to Lionel Richie and Chicago and REO, and those bands will always be near and dear to my heart. I think it would be amazing to book REO Speedwagon. I know that sounds crazy and cheesy, but like, I can remember sitting in front of the record player when I was probably 4 or 5 years old and seeing you can tune a piano but you can't tune a fish was the vinyl, and so Molly Hatchet and REO and Leonard Skinner, and those are albums that we had around when I was a kid. But we also had Lionel Richie and Kenny Rogers and Christopher Cross and Journey, and so my mom listened to everything. On Saturday mornings we'd clean the house, Saturday mornings were for cartoons and breakfast and then cleaning, and Mom would crank up the radio and we'd sing along, my sister and my mom and I, and that turned into a huge love of music. And then even later in life, my mom and sister and I would sing at church. We'd get up and sing special songs and stuff, and I was always nervous, and my mom and sister have beautiful voices, and so I kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, but they always included me to act like I had a part.
To make you feel included, I guess.
Yeah,
It was by default.
I enjoy singing. It's something that I wished I was not as scared to do as sometimes when it's just my friend Lam and I, I can sing at the top of my lungs and feel like a rock star, but I get nervous if I'm in front of a microphone.
Yeah.
So yeah, music, man, I could go on for days. I will tell you, I had the opportunity to book. I've booked a lot of great acts. I booked the 2 Live Crew in Seymour at the Rocks probably about 9 years ago or something. And I didn't even really attend the show. It was on a Monday night. I went and made sure they arrived and had everything had come to fruition like it was supposed to. And then I watched a tune or two. For me, it was the thrill of actually booking such a high profile, 2 Live Crew.
The early 90s, man.
And say what you want, man, but like,
It's the reason why we have parental advisory.
it's the reason we have parental advisory. And as a young, impressionable mind at the time, I loved rap music. I loved what they were doing. I don't mind a cuss word, so that part didn't bother me. But I really saw what they were doing to music, and I saw the direction that music was going. Tipper Gore and all those folks wanted to really ban music, and they wanted to ban what people were choosing to listen to, which seemed ridiculous to me
Right.
as a 7th and 8th grade kid. Even hey, this is my ears, this is my head. Let me listen to what I want to listen to,
Yeah.
and how dare you stifle an artist, And so
It's too funny you bring that up because she grew up a little more sheltered than I did. But just the other night, I happened to be going down a rabbit hole on YouTube in our studio at our house. And,
Yeah, we were just.
and it
It was
I
like YouTube
watching
after YouTube
old
video or
school
whatever.
hip hop versus new school hip hop.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it would it'd break into the old school song and then show the new stuff that
Yeah.
there's some that I still like, but
Sure.
I'm struggling more and more. But we ended up down this rabbit hole, and I ended up pulling up 2 Live Crew and some others, and
Yeah.
was playing songs for her, and I was like, you don't understand, like, this was a big deal.
yeah,
Yeah.
So that's so cool that you said this. I went into the whole story. I'm like, these are the guys. This is the reason why we have parental
That he, like,
advisory.
wouldn't-
They
just-
arrested these guys at
Yeah.
concerts
Yeah,
because
they got
came out and
arrested.
performed.
Yeah, for cussing and singing lyrics. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That blew my mind. I bought. Good Lord, Mother, close your ears. But I bought "Nasty as They Want to Be," the album at Music Connection from Sandy. On 2nd Street. Man, I was 13 probably. You know what I mean? And it didn't have. We weren't staring at those parental advisory
Right,
stickers.
right.
They were coming out real soon. And then all of a sudden, here I was, a 14, 15-year-old kid that couldn't buy music. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what in the world? You know,
They think you're not old enough to be like, dude, I just thought it.
even some rock albums, you know, with just a peppered word here or there, and they were getting these lyric stickers put on them. And so, to me, you know, to come to where I was at in life, and the book Two Live Crew was huge for me as just a musical lover. You know what I mean? Like, it was that sweet song and dance back and forth of booking them, and you know, hey, we're trying to get back to Florida from Chicago, and we might as well make a stop. You know what I mean? So let's figure this out. How we're gonna make some money for you? How we're gonna make some money for the venue? And then let me put that feather in my cap. You know, and I was real thankful for that, and they were really cool dudes. I got to hang out with them for a minute and two. Luther Campbell was not with them, so you know, it's just the other cats, and Luke's making millions doing whatever, but these cats are still, you know, touring on that name, and so that was big for me. You know, now, you know, we've booked some Grammy-nominated artists, and they've played right here in this venue now. Everybody from James Otto to Lee Nash from Sixpence None the Richer, who, you know, Kiss Me, and There She Goes, and Lee has played outside on our stage with her husband, Steve Wilson, who's a dear friend of mine, and Steve's an amazing, amazing artist. You guys need to check him out. Steve Wilson Jr. out of Nashville, Tennessee, and he's Lee's guitar player as well, but he's creating some beautiful sounds on his own. And then they've played in here, standing right here where we're sitting, and
really?
And yeah, so it's the biggest thing that warms my heart is just to see artists in here enjoying themselves, and to look and to see the crowd enjoying themselves, and that feels like, yo, I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
You know?
So really, what you've been able to do in your life is you really combined all of your loves. I mean,
that's what I mean. Like, this is like the perfect thing. You have
you kind of had some background in the restaurant,
music.
You got the pizza side, your best buddy in the brewing and the Seymour Brewing Company, and then live music. You've really been able to culminate it all together.
Yeah, and you know, for Rich, it was you know, I didn't think about it because I was so deep into, oh man, I'm getting ready to go in debt here to do this brewing thing, and you know, Rich looked at it and said, man, we can brew beer here. We've got a live music venue, like
that goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
like, that would be great.
Rich, like I say, he's a music head. Like, you go back in our brewery and you look, and it's just all music related. A lot of our beer names come from music type things, or you know, things relatable in our lives. All of our IPAs are named something to a Cheech and Chong reference. You know what I mean? And we're constantly thinking of names, which is a heck of a lot of fun for us. We love that part of it. But yeah, you know, we're all blessed. Rich. Here's a quick one for you. So Rich is we have a guy that's kind of like a junior brewmaster that works with Rich. His name's Graham Shira. Graham has been with us for about 6 years, so longer than Rich has. Graham's a college student. Graham came to work for us in high school. Crazy part about that was Rich got me a job at Karma, but what he did was call Graham's mom at the time. Right, so we're talking 20 years ago, you know, and Graham was not even born yet. Graham's mom was my boss at Karma Records, and we were dear friends. And so later on in life, you know, I've known Grammy since he was a kid, and Graham's a music head. Graham can play bass and guitar and drums, and he's just a beast. And so Rich is an eclectic fellow. You think I'm eclectic? Rich is eclectic. And so I knew it was going to take the right kind of person to vibe back there with Rich, to be helpful to Rich, you know?
Yeah.
And so I introduced Rich and Graham, and they hit it off immediately, but they're both metalheads, you know what I mean? They both still love to go to Red Fang concerts, and concerts that you'd think a guy like me would go, hey, you didn't invite me, but I'm like, hey, wait, you guys are jamming something heavy there, even heavier than what I'm listening to. So you guys go enjoy it. In fact, they're at a brewers conference tonight. The next couple of days, they're learning their craft better, and they're learning how to what the new things are. You know,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so, you know, they were like, hey, we're gonna go do this for 3 days. Do you want to go? I'm like, I'm gonna stay here and hold the fort down. You guys, you know, they're doing a phenomenal job. Yeah, and that's what I told Rich. I always believed in what Rich did, and do 110%. He doesn't put anything in here on tap that he doesn't absolutely love. It doesn't come out of that brewery.
Yeah.
You know, and so I never have to worry about it. And so Holly, our pub tender, she's in here 6 days a week. makes her job easy. She knows everything she's pouring out of that is going to be exactly what these customers want. And so,
Well, and everything I've tried has been delicious.
Yeah,
I mean, now
excellent.
you can, obviously everybody has their own their tastes or their things, but everything is good. It's just
I like Coke.
some are better than
Coca-Cola.
Some it might taste a little bit better than others. But I do want to ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you play anything? Are you a musician in the sense that you can play?
I play the radio great.
I'm good with Alexa.
Yeah, I'm really good with her. I do have a few guitars, man.
Yeah.
I got more guitars than I've got skill. But
I've got one, and that's a lot more than I've got skill.
and for years before I was blessed with my wife in my life, I would just sing to my dog, and so.
And they always like it.
He loved it. I could sing the same Johnny Cash tune to him 3
You
times
sing
in
it
a
over
row,
and over,
and
and
he
I'm
thought
sure
I
he's
was.
fine.
He was ready to buy a ticket for the next show.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky. My wife really enjoys hearing me play when I do play. I don't play often enough. I get caught up in day-to-day stuff, and in fact, this summer we're talking about doing like a 9-week thing out here at Harmony Park during the week where we'd start a beginner-type guitar lesson for 3 or 4 weeks. Holly would teach some of that. Then Lom, my buddy Lom, would come in and teach